Ah. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 8 and through the town website at www.eastham-mass-ma.gov. Right. There we go.
All right. I guess we need to make the move approval of the August minutes.
Yeah.
So just motion and someone seconds it.
I'll second.
Okay. That motion passes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought so. I think we just move on from that. I don't know. Climate Action Committee. I was at the Climate Action Committee, as was Gary. Gary, do you want to kind of give a little background on what they're doing in regards to this climate action plan?
Sure. You mind if I don't sit at the table?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're welcome to sit at the table anytime. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, they're working on a lot of things. They usually do, as Andrew found out with his visit on last Monday. Their meetings run at least an hour and a half, often 2 hours, because they're just overseeing so much of what they're trying to accomplish every meeting. And they're trying to accomplish a lot. The big thing that they're working on right now and totally immersed in is putting together East Ham's climate action plan that'll take us through 2030. And shortly after that, they'll be working on 2050. But right now, they're working very diligently on a plan for East Ham, a climate action plan for East Ham that will be approved by the select board, approved by the administration, so forth and so on. So there's a lot of people they have to get input from and to get approval from. The town itself also has a plan, an action plan committee put together under the auspices of Paul Lag, who is the town planner. He also has a committee that is also working on the climate plan for 2030.
Are we recording?
It says this meeting is being recorded.
Okay. Usually we see ourselves mirrored on the.
I'm seeing it on my screen.
Oh,
I guess it's because it says recording on the corner too. I'm new to Zoom, to be honest.
That's fine.
So anyway, the idea is that they're going to collaborate. These two committees will collaborate: the Climate Action Committee and the committee that Paul Ag has put together, and put together the best parts of both plans that they come up with. That's the idea. So they're even looking at other plans, climate plans around Massachusetts, and take the best out of each of the plans that they like of the other towns that the other towns are doing, and incorporate it in the plan that they're doing for East Ham. So it's a big deal. They did a resident survey, a big resident survey, just to find out, for example, how many of the residents have solar, how many of them are on the fence about solar, how many of them have EV cars, how many of them are planning to do solar. So it was a big survey, and they learned a lot about, it gave them guidelines as to what they should incorporate in their plan, insofar as where the community is at right now. How many are into solar, for example, and how many aren't, tells them a lot about what they got to do to increase solar and EVs and such things like that. So that's basically what they're over their heads about right now in terms of planning. So that's going to take at least another couple of months before it's.
Do you know if there's sufficient capacity in our local grid if everybody were to go solar? Because I keep hearing that the bilateral nature of solar and normal electric feed has a capacity of sorts.
That's out of my bandwidth, but I have to assume that somebody such as the town planner figured that out. If Paul Lag hasn't figured it out, it should figure it out, that we've got the grid for it.
Okay.
Usually there's community battery to accompany solar if it's a larger rollout. So they maybe have some plans for community battery to store off-grid hours, because otherwise you'll have negative prices and then we'll have all kinds of problems.
I haven't heard a word about that.
Okay.
The only thing you hear about is the 5G stuff and something else that's driving the use of energy on the grid, and can we afford to have all these?
Everybody on solar,
yeah,
because it's a wider pipe of
No, just that much drain on the grid itself, not from solar or any other particular.
Okay.
So anyway, that's where this the climate action committee is right now. And basically, they're working very diligently, based on the information that they've learned from the survey they put out. They're thinking not to the guideposts for what they've got to do to put together the plan.
Okay.
For the big plan, and it's going to be a big plan.
There's multiple objectives.
Plan,
yeah,
that'll take us to 2030.
Gary, how many people do they have on it?
7.
That's it?
Yeah, just like any other committee. Yeah.
Are you one of the 7?
No, I'm a volunteer. No, I'm just a volunteer. I'm not on.
One area that in that climate action plan that I noticed that really stuck out to me that I was able to kind of hone in on is objective 4, which deals with erosion. So I think that that could be an avenue for us to make justifications for getting a compost machine and a glass breaker, because sand and compost will both help for erosion.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that kind of gives us some leverage. So I'm going to try to work with them on that and try to kind of get involved with just enough to get, hey, maybe the transit station is a municipal place for this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we need funding. We're looking at grants. They're doing all that kind of stuff. I may also try to see if I can get with the strategic planning committee and see if that's somehow involved in some of this, and I might be able to get more information regarding the transit station and swap shop moving. So I have not gone to that meeting because I have to figure out when it is, but I do want to go to that, and I didn't want to try to do all this all at once and just, be too much for me to process. And then one thing I noticed, they also talked about budget. They had a budget meeting talking about trying to figure out what their expenses are, and I think what I'm going to do this year is try to keep track of what we're spending and see if we can go for, once I get to talk to Tom and know what he's actually asking for, I'm probably just going to ask for half and start there, because we definitely don't do as much as they do. And they go to conferences, calls, and I talked to him today a little bit, so he was very helpful. I want to meet with him again and pick his brain as just another chair in another committee and see, look at some of what we could be doing.
For which
so
committee?
that's that.
I'm sorry.
The Climate Action Committee. Yeah, and then, like I said, I want to go over to the Strategic Planning Committee just because they'll have more information regarding the swap shop transfer station situation. I want to get information on the sewage treatment. Where's that going? We were told 3 different places, so that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's just basically been what I kind of gleaned from the Climate Action Committee, at least the time I was there, and then obviously whatever Gary's at.
But Andrew, on the subject of budgets, yeah, Tom and I have been talking about a budget too, and he wanted to know what we were doing. And I put out some feelers to Carrie Purcell, who you guys have all met. She sat in a couple of our meetings. And by the way, she's available anytime you want to invite her. But anyway, I asked her about budgets around the Cape. What kind of budgets do other health towns? She said it's interesting. For example, Brewster has a budget of $1,500 a year that is automatically renewed every year by the select board. Yarmouth has a budget of $8,000 a year. So it's all over the place.
Yeah, gotcha.
What are they doing with
But if you can substantiate that 8,000, they will get it approved. So it's all about what we can substantiate.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to conferences, so I would imagine 8,000 probably is where a lot of that's going. It's expensive to go to conferences just for the passes and stuff for 7 people. As someone who used to go to a lot of conferences, you're talking $300 a person sometimes.
Yeah.
So it could easily eat into that. So my guess is that's probably what it is. Although we don't do that, so I need to just kind of figure out where we'll probably need to be.
Right.
But they're good to know. It's good information to have. Any updates at the swap shop? Anything going on there?
Wow. Well, since Andrew started gathering data, the entire swap shop concept is getting massaged into where it can move to, because our location sucks in terms of traffic safety, in terms of bottlenecking, access to people coming into the transfer station to do normal transfer station business. Andrew's been invited on a drive around with the police chief to scout other locations. There's been much talk, instead of getting a Pine Harbor vanilla building, of getting a couple of shipping containers and possibly joining them and customizing them with windows and some things so they don't become either ice boxes or ovens in the summer. I don't know the short way around that. Andrew and I have talked about this a bunch. We do not want to move it out of the transfer station for a couple of reasons. We still want the front booth to collect a fee. We adamantly do not want to be the free thrift shop on the Cape that drives in all these other people. It is a resource for the town. It is a resource for people visiting for $10 per visit. But I do not want to open it up, and I also do not want to compete with thrift shops and people that make their living up at the Wellfleet Cinema. And Andrew's had a couple of tentative talks with Jackie Beebe.
Just the one.
And Jackie seemed very enthused to get way more involved in the swap shop and even have the town fund some of our operations. But the other reason for not moving it out of the transfer station is then we have to have a separate pickup of both garbage and recyclables. And we're short like half the crew at the transfer station. And by the way, and the Department of Public Works. So adding anything onto all that just seems kind of foolish. So Andrew and I sort of scouted, and we kind of like the area down below the solar arrays, sort of next to or just past that big mound of agricultural waste. And the push, if we were to move it there, is that instead of having just 2 poultry cans, big containers for compost, actually put in, a small commercial digester. So we can actually generate our own dirt and not necessarily go through what is it, black earth. But that location would be perfect because there are all these cut-ins for people to pull in. Andrew tells me that a small composter could fit in that space, and that would seem to make a lot of sense, since theoretically 30% of our solid waste is food and that kind of stuff. And so between the swap shop and that, if we can really push that, because we can also get, for example, if I go take all the invasives out of my yard, I don't know what to do with them. I can only burn them once or twice a year, and I'm not in love with that, but they make great biofuel or compost. And so I was talking to somebody, nobody that's paying attention takes any of the dirt out of the back section there because all the invasives are in that dirt. And that creates another problem. So if we get a small way to compost that with heat, we can probably pick up a whole lot more agricultural waste. We can probably pick up stuff from, right now the landscapers drop that stuff. If we can offer a reduced rate for them to, put all that stuff into something that will properly digest it, that removes it from a bunch of places. Now I know that the big tree guys and stuff don't dump at the transfer station for the most part. I know they all have their little secret places that they take it to, but the amount of invasives in my small property that come off, add that into everybody else, and we could really generate a lot of dirt.
Yeah.
And bypass a lot of dirt into other things. Because I go back and forth with my invasives and burn it, put it in the garbage, sneak it into the composting bins, but it's out of scale. But the space we have right now for the swap shop would be perfect for something to digest stuff.
Don, are you talking about down where the textile bins are?
No. When you go to where furniture is,
yeah,
and you keep following it back to that huge pile of dirt back there
yeah.
and yard waste, we're wondering if down to the right next to it or somewhere in there could possibly be a better location for
put the Christmas trees?
Past the Christmas trees to the right. I don't know the real estate that well. We were just brainstorming.
Yeah, we didn't even go there. We just had a concept of where it is from aerial photographs.
Okay.
Yeah, but it struck us that we might be able to find another space in the transfer station, and for the reasons I went through, I don't want to move it out of the transfer station. Yeah. I just think that's so problematic and
it needs to go into a place the city already owns, which a lot of the transfer station around the transfer station is already owned by them. So it makes sense to kind of use property they have.
Versus try to acquire, which is tentatively offered to us because they still haven't figured out what we're doing with it. That requires a brand new outbuilding and stuff and some fence or something, and that just does not seem very rational.
Yeah,
So unless there are really strong reasons, it would be nice to relocate within the transfer station.
and it would be back far enough that theoretically, then, if there is noise, I don't know how much, it would not bother the people out of the street.
The swap shop?
No.
The composter?
The digester.
Oh, the digester where the swap shop now is buffered with all those trees. They're not that loud, are they?
What?
It's a heat system. The composters.
I mean, it makes some noise. Depending on the unit, they make some, like industrial noises, but it doesn't run like 24/7.
Yeah.
It runs for a cycle and then you empty it and run it again for a cycle. So I would imagine it wouldn't run past any hours that people would have a problem with. It really depends on how the transit station runs it. I can't imagine it being that problematic because they run trash compactors in that area too, and no one says anything about hearing all the glass shatter and the cans crunch and the boxes break. And it's, they have that, I don't know what it looks like. It's just a giant ram they put up against the things and it crushes them. I watched it run. It was pretty neat.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think that that's a good location. I still have yet to meet with anybody regarding where it possibly could go, so that we have just that information at the moment. Other than we know it wants to move, we know that it has something to do with the sewer system. I'm going to try to glean all this information in the next week or so, the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I guess should we move to Windmill Weekend? I thought Windmill Weekend was
Back at the swap.
Sure.
I'm back at the transfer
Yeah,
station.
good.
We've got that new amazing display case for a sign. You know what I'm talking about?
So about the one that has a sign in it now.
There's no sign in it.
There was one that had the reduce, reuse, and tape.
Yeah, that's gone.
Okay, yeah, it was falling apart anyway.
It was. And this beautiful new wood framed one has arrived.
Okay.
Finally, they promised me about a year and a half ago, and it's up. So the question is, what message?
Well, we got to get to updated committee branding. That's part of that. It's going to be part of that. Like I said, that discussion. I think it's something that's worth investing in totally overall.
Okay.
So we'll come back to it as a discussion. I want to talk about Windmill Weekend. I thought that was a big success. And people came by. It kind of. I learned a lot just based on like what should we be doing, and I got a lot of comments from the community in regards to I was interacting with as many. You saw how I was trying to talk to anybody. Do you use a swap shop? Do you use a transfer station? Why don't not accusatory, but like please help me.
Yeah.
And so after talking to them, I came up with a couple ideas. But one is people were talking about, well, I have renters and I don't know how they would use the swap shop. Like they don't want to pay the $10. So I came up with an idea, a voucher system. I accidentally or on purpose somehow ended up talking to some people on the select board. They loved the idea and they're already doing it for beaches. So it'll be easy to roll out. I just have to put something together and present it to the select board. But a voucher, for instance, will be 10 weeks because that's about how long the season is. It could be $80 for the packet of 10 vouchers for them to have their renters every couple of weeks. And the renter comes, they can take stuff to the transfer station. That also would enable them to get access to the swap shop. They could, in theory, buy a packet of beach packs and a packet of whatever. It just adds more
each
use.
house gets its own permit.
Yeah, and we're not forcing anyone to do anything, but we give them an option to give to their renters. Also, then they can say, well, I'm participating. They're not using the vouchers. Theoretically, they wouldn't expire, so they could just roll them over or whatever. I don't know. I'll have to talk to more people about how they're using the beach vouchers. But that was an idea just because the comments I was getting is people weren't using it.
When you legitimately rent in the town for the summer season, there's X amount of paperwork that you have to fill out. On top of certifying that if you're using well water, that it's not toxic and stuff, it could be part of that process. Because
Absolutely.
the town interacts with everybody legitimately renting that way.
Who do you have to register with?
The town itself, they send I think it's like a survey. How many people are renting your house? Which is actually limited by the actual size of your septic system.
People who are renting have to register online with the town.
Oh, I didn't know
And then
that.
the town sends out a human to inspect the property and tell you, oh, no, you can't have 8 beds. You're only allowed to have 6 based on your square footage.
Right.
Okay.
They have to pay for a water test if they're using well water.
Okay. I mean, we
So
could
there's
easily.
already a handshake.
Yeah, exactly. There's already a way we could just say, hey, well, we also have these for you guys to use if you want, or have them buy them every year when they got to do whatever they got to do. That's
Right.
even better. The other one I got a lot of feedback on was relating to the digester. People were interested in the composting, but they were more upset that they couldn't get dirt back.
Yeah.
It was a big point of contention. I could just do it at home if I can't get dirt back. It was like, I'm happy that you're doing it at home. I want you to do it at home.
Pickup was big too.
Yeah. Yeah, they want a compost pickup as well. And again, that's not something we offer, but maybe in the future we have municipal trash and it could be done. I don't know.
Well, but that went to the problem we were discussing of, you know, the amount of agricultural waste that comes out of the food storage, the food service industry.
Yeah.
But the great problem of, you know, right now they have recyclables and garbage, and they probably have a separate pickup for oil. To add one more thing to that may be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because the food waste is really messy.
Yeah.
Which means you need a sealed container, which means to properly do it, you would need to swap out the containers. Then somebody would need to clean them. So, you know, you've added a whole other level of maintenance on something. I'm not adverse to it, but I couldn't see an easy way to get to it.
I don't either. I'm not really saying it's a tomorrow idea, not a today problem. It's just something that people were talking about.
But if we can reinforce people bringing their compost.
At the single-use plastic form, I think Nick said if he could compost stuff from Arnold's.
Correct. He said he would do it, yeah, because it would save him a
I
fortune.
mean, it sounded like he was so.
He said by
By
wages
rerouting
paying.
it would just be that much less.
He said he would save so much money just doing it that way that it wouldn't even be a problem. That's why it's not an issue.
Wonderful. I don't recall hearing that.
Yeah. That was
He
what.
would love to take his compost.
Yeah.
Well, because almost everything gets rid of in that
Parts
facility
Is compostable.
is compostable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's lobster
Very
parts
little,
primarily.
very
Which is
little.
great for soil, you know.
Yep.
And you can put heavy plastic bag lining into big cans.
Well, in theory, this would be
Dump
more
it
like a
in.
dumpster system where they would
Okay.
put their compost in a dumpster. A truck would take one dumpster while dropping a new dumpster, and then take that dumpster to the transit station and dump it into whatever machine or chute or pile it goes to, which then goes into the. Again, this is all ideal. None of this is even possible at the current state of things. But I think if we sort of tie things into this erosion situation, we may be able to get more access to funding, or at least get somebody to say like, hey, yeah, this is it seems silly not to invest the money now to do this. So it's really just kind of like seeing what we can chase down and then compromising with what we get. At least that's where I currently am on that. But yeah, the Windmill weekend, I thought it was a success. That's kind of what brought me to branding. I put up the billboard, the banner, the composting banner. I'm going to share my screen so we can see what I'm talking about here. I took a picture of it just so we have it. I put this banner up. Oops, there we go. So it doesn't have any branding for the recycling committee. It's great for the town of Eastham, but I felt like people were originally coming up when I first started. Before I was like talking to them, they were like, "Oh, you guys are for the town of Eastham?" I'm like, "No, we're the recycling committee." So it's obvious that I had the other banner, but the wind was blowing it so bad that it rendered it kind of moot. So I thought, okay, why don't we do some new branding, new signs, new things, come up with a common design theme, design language, like you would if you were a professional charity organization or anything else. And I had was something I wanted to bring to the circular economy. I brought enough for everybody, actually. So you could just pass them down. Yeah, I think people liked it because it's very easy to illustrate what is going on. And I think we should do something like this for the sign at the transit station to kind of inform people. I can make this bigger. We have the rights to everything as well. The rights to all the clip art, the rights to the font. So there's no issues there. So we can go commercial print, all that kind of stuff. But I think we can do stuff with this as the kind of the basis and make this bigger for the sign. I have to go look at the sign sizes because if it's a new box, it means it's a new size. And I measured it for this and was going to get something made. For $60, we can get something printed at Staples, laminated. It would probably last us for years, the guy said. It would take us, it's UV laminate. So it would be, the sun would beat on it. It wouldn't generate, more waste or microplastics with it breaking down. And it would be clear, concise messaging that's consistent. And then as the years go on, I think if we can get the town to embrace some of these ideas more, we can then advertise them on a larger scale with that as an infographic. For instance, the composting program could be advertised. Hey, did you know we have compost over there to the left? Hey, did you know that you can bring all your glass in? Like the recycling thing, I don't know what we put for the reduce, but as it goes, maybe it's a way we sort of inform people without being too wordy or preachy on anything. I think people like infographics and people like things they can take. I had a packet out that Gretchen had given me, and it wasn't even consistent from page to page. And every time a person came up, they took a page. So it was like they didn't even care what it said. They just wanted something to take. So I was thinking we could then steer that into further. Let me close that. This is the old logo from the old banner that we found at the swap shop. So I want to do is give this a couple passes through art. I'm not going to do it myself. I'm not an artist. I'm going to get an art department. Somebody that did this will do the other one and give this the same treatment. And then we get sort forming a brand. Even though we're not a company or a group or a committee, we should have some professional looking branding. I think if we build it, people will take us, more seriously. We'll get more volunteers, because one of the things we also didn't have is handouts to recruit. I was like, hey, do you want to volunteer? But I didn't have anything. We didn't have anything made. We had volunteer for the recycling committee, but not the swap shop. So I want to break out certain volunteer things for the swap shop, certain volunteer things for the recycling committee, and kind of just make ourselves known to the community, like announce we're here. I think that people just don't know what we're, I don't necessarily know what we're doing or how we're here, but I don't know. I thought that we could steer into the past. I like the windmill. East Ham's a big windmill thing. So I thought we could steer into that a little bit. Again, I just took a picture of it just because I didn't want to bring the whole banner. It's really big. It's a really odd size too. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on the branding. Anybody have any thoughts? Obviously, I don't mind going over any of that. I have a bunch of stuff I'm going to bring up here. I'm just popping it up. Sorry. But yeah, so this is the original thing I had. Like I said, originally I had like a guy in a trash can or something in there, like a Recyclops monster or whatever you want to call him. But my wife gave it a pass over. She's actually an artist, so she was like, "Let me fix this." So she gave it a pass. But I think that this is kind of what we can start branding as our messaging, repairing. Again, I don't really know what we're going to do there. Maybe we get in contact with makers and do a repair fair of some kind, bring stuff. People with 3D printers can bring them and repair the things. I don't know. I'm not really sure yet. Redistribute, we're already working with the students from the school. I gave them my contact info. I said, when you run out of clothes, you let me know. I'll get you more clothes as best I can.
Which students?
The students from Norfolk.
Yeah, so the recycling committee,
The Green Club?
The Green Club was able to meet us at 12:30-ish.
Mhm.
They showed up and they brought a rack of clothes, and it was like a $3 donation for anything on the rack.
They sold several.
Yeah.
They didn't sell anything. They were getting donations.
True.
Donations but that's kind of my thought. And then I think we can get a lot of that stuff started working on for the next windmill weekend. So instead of working on a sign, maybe we work on a trifold pamphlet. I'll send again. A lot of this will go. I'll send out notes or something. But I kind of came up with this just here of just a list of like what we had handout wise. I went through all the handouts we had, and I put what we need to put information wise together, rather than have multiple handouts that kind of recover the same thing but aren't branded. So I just this is just a list. It's not really anything other than a list. But composting information, we have a handout for that. We had recycling information. We don't really have a handout for that. We have things we suggest they recycle on that pamphlet. But going overall and say, here's the things we can recycle. There's a lot of can we or can't we? A whole pamphlet page on a trifold that covers that with not too much information, but some would be great. And then feature the swap shop. This is about the transit station. This is about the recycling. So there's no mentions of the swap. It's like we don't even acknowledge it. So why not start talking about it? And then on the back, we put the contact information for the committee, the transit station, the hours, etc. And then also mention somewhere in there as much as possible the circular economy. That's going to be our consistent branding. That's what we want. We're going to build a community around it. It's the EPA is pushing it. It's the new green thing. So why not just make the change?
One of the things that we could think about in terms of people who rent their houses is, and I don't know how much of this you're doing at the swap shop, but see what we could do about encouraging people when they've got sheets they just want to replace or whatever, bringing those to the swap shop, because someone who's renting could use those. They don't have to be designer.
You mean the homeowners?
Yeah.
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 Oh, okay. So they, yeah.
or get any kind of housewares or stuff.
Housewares, but you don't want to get into any fabrics.
No.
Carries things.
But there are
Yeah.
often housewares and
Yes.
frying pans and coffee
Yeah.
pots. And
We already do a decent business like
Okay.
that without any advertising or public relations. People come in at the beginning of the season, people outfit their houses. There's a woman that comes in who outfits housing for military that's posted here, and she always comes in with a very specific list of things. So I mean, we already do a decent amount of business with that.
There's a woman in Orleans who labels herself as concierge rental person. And basically what she does is she goes in, this applies more to people who are coming and staying for the whole summer. And when they leave, and they leave everything behind, pretty much. So her job is to go in and clean it all up.
Right.
And the thrift shop I work at in Orleans is the lucky recipient
of all of that stuff.
Yeah, all of that stuff. Yes. Some of it we can use, some of it
not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether there's, somebody in Eastham that might think about doing something like that. I don't know.
You mean as a business or?
Yeah, because I'm sure she's getting paid.
Well, one thing we may try to do is, well, I got it on here too, the swap shop 2 specs. That's like, what is our wish list for the swap shop?
Yeah.
What do we wish it could do? One of the things that I personally thought of that it might be nice is if we had running water, we could put in a washer dryer. It doesn't have to be a big unit, but something to wash, just subtly wash clothes. And I would like to start doing some clothes donations. And this could include bed sheets in there. I mean, I would obviously limit soft furniture because bed bugs can be a problem and things like that.
No, you don't want.
Although we do soft furniture now, like there was a princess chair not that long ago. I remember a lot of ladies were fighting over.
Yeah.
So like,
kitchen towels.
yeah, exactly. And those things could also get donated to charities if they don't go. And there's lots of avenues we could find for them. So I do want to be able to bring them, but if I want to be able to wash them first, that way we have a peace of mind, like it's been washed before we put it out. But it was at least washed if we could wash it. Again, that may be, I'm not 100% on that.
I'm a little torn on that.
I know, me too.
Labor, in terms of
so
water, in terms of everything else.
So am
I.
It's all things I'm considering, but I don't want to postpone progress in the name of perfection. Because if we build it, they may come.
Right.
I'm hoping that's kind of the spirit I'm taking with this. If we build a nice new swap shop, we may get a whole new slew of volunteers that come in. We don't know. So I don't want to rule it out, but I'm not going to say like this has to happen or we're not moving forward either. It's just I think it would be a nice to have, and that's the kind of things I put on this agenda. Like it's just stuff that I want everyone to think about. What do we want the new swap shop to look like? I noticed that our current swap shop doesn't have a ton of signage in regards to what do they take and what don't they take, and I think that would be a nice thing for the new one to say right up front when people pull up. They can't just go, well, I didn't know. It's right there on a sign. You brought it with you. You can take it back out.
Although at this point, we pretty much trained people. There was thought of identifying ourselves. We tried, somebody dropped off a whole bunch of wine lays, but it was too hot to wear them. So we rebelled. But most people that pull up say, are you a volunteer? Yes. What can I leave you? So there's a lot of dialogue going on that didn't happen.
I know, but I don't want to rely on dialogue or any of that stuff. I would like to just put, I mean, it's a sign, you know what I mean? It'll be a cut and dried, not this volunteer's opinion, not that volunteer's opinion. We can't keep the volunteers.
But we will still need a sign off because people drop stuff with us in the best of possible worlds. At the end of the day, we have to move.
I know, and again, this is at the new swap shop. This is not the current operating method of the swap shop. This is the new vision of the swap shop. So whatever the old swap shop did, it's in the past. This is the new vision.
It's a lot of volunteers that are roaming around, at least on the outside.
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
I don't have as much of a problem as he does because we really do want to be able to refuse things.
Yeah.
Nicely. It's like, thank you very much. Please put that by furniture.
Yeah.
Or take that down to metal.
And signs will just prevent some of that.
Yeah, so I mean, we can certainly simplify what we take.
Yeah, you'd have us
I can't click on that.
building that do whatever.
Sure.
We thank you, but we cannot take A, B, C, D.
Well, and
I can't click on.
conceptually,
Oh yeah, maybe it's on that one.
conceptually, the new swap shop would have more room for storage and for processing. Because right now we have sort of room
Thank you.
for neither.
Yeah, and that's the kind of things that, again, on the swap shop specs, like how much room will we want for storage? How much room we want for processing? How much room we want for?
We could start keeping packet plays and porta cribs for the next season. Although somebody anecdotally told me somebody went out a couple of years ago and spent $6,000 for it, bought all that stuff and made their money back in the first 3 weeks of a rental season. Because all the parents had come up with the full car, you rent it.
Well, and we lost, East Tim is losing one of their rental businesses this year, so I don't know if we'll have a rental place.
Yeah.
For anybody to get portable cribs and stuff like that.
The first time my first grandchild came up to visit, I had a terrible time trying to find any of that stuff.
Right.
I didn't have it anymore.
Right.
Found it at Kid and Boo, but some of it.
And baby equipment's an area that is a bit wonky too, but that's where we probably shouldn't take car seats because they break down.
We don't officially take car seats. If it's within the 9 years, we put it to the side of the building, and that's somebody else's thing.
I understand. I don't want to have we're trying to solidify and strengthen the operating manifesto of this swap shop, not what we did. Again, it's not. So let's think about forward. What do we want to take and what shouldn't we take for safety reasons?
Right.
What we did, again, I don't want to harp on it because it's a bit of a chaotic mess, and that's fine for what it is. But now we want to move forward to the new one. I don't want to make the new one a chaotic mess. I want to hand somebody something organized in 3 or 4 years when I'm gone from here and say, here is the swap shop. It's running like a drum. It has all the rules written clearly. Everyone has a flow. And everyone's identified by wearing a vest or whatever it is still, because that's not going to be negotiable with Chief Bohannon, I can already tell you. After the incident that happened, it's definitely not going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I was pro the vest anyway because it gives us fundraising opportunities, and we'll do another thing too, like the signs. We get someone to sponsor the sign, sponsored by whatever it is. You just put them in the corner. It's not branding opportunities. It's just somebody that paid for it. These are things we don't have to necessarily worry about Swap Shop paying for unless we have to worry about a budget.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's the kind of stuff that Swap Shop 2 specs. How big do we want it to be? New items for the Swap Shop. What do we want to take that we don't currently take? What's our ideals? How do we grow it? Because right now, one of the things we have tons of is lamps. And what do we do with them? So we make
the only thing we can store, that's why.
Yeah, exactly. So we're storing things that we definitely aren't getting rid of, but just the sake of storing it so it looks like there's stuff inside. And that's the kind of the things that I want to. Again, we're going to look at what we need to do, how much room we have, and then once it's filled up, the ugliest lamps can go to the trash heap first, because there's a lot of ugly lamps in there, and it's just like one item that's like clogging things up. That I'm like, it's when things go inside, they kind of die. They don't go anywhere unless somebody really that's looking for them goes inside to find them. Right. I actually made a flow chart of the items in the swap shop from my observations. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I think now is a good time. A lot of apps open here. Let me.
Actually, the lamps are across a space that's so high.
Yeah,
it's hard to reach them.
Yep.
And it would be more difficult if there were vases or sculptures or anything up there.
Right.
So.
Oh, I also wrote a new handbook. I'm going to email it out after this meeting. It's just a quick. I just did a handbook from when I worked at. I did a lot of volunteering over the years, so I have tons of handbooks. I just pulled one from a homeless shelter or food shelter or something, and retyped it up for the swap shop. So I'll send that out after the meeting. I meant to send some of this stuff out in an information packet before, but I just didn't. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do this stuff going forward, So I apologize for my lack of organization to a degree. I can't seem to get it to open. Let's see here. Open.
We're talking about the new swap shop, but it ain't here yet.
No, I know, but if we have a solid plan for it, then it's easier to argue to get one than it is to say, please just give us one. We'll swear we'll organize it and be good about it. And we didn't do that the last 10 years we've had this charge. So I'm kind of the mind, if we're not going to do it, let's just close it and let people complain about not having one until they're willing to do what we need to do to have an organization. That's my personal opinion. And if everyone wants to do something else, I'm great to do it too. But I kind of am in the let's make it nice, because right now there's a lot of tribal knowledge. Tribal knowledge is a bad thing because it relies on someone else telling the truth and being 100% sure what they're saying. And I learned a lot of things that weren't true. And so now we're going to document. I think that's the best way to go. So I think that's, Now let's see. Let's see if I can find the flow chart. I have a lot of flow charts too. Maybe I'll send that out too, because it's
Send it
not
out.
finished. Yeah, I don't want to just wait for it. But so here's a handbook. I'll send this out. Where do we put, you mean in your computers?
Well, that works. I like paper stuff.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I hear you. But yeah, that was one of the things. Like I said, I got the banner sizes. Just again, so we wanted to do a new banner in our updated thing. There's two different sizes of banners we had. The one's 15 by 91. That's a weird size. Yeah, I had a hard time hanging it.
It's too big.
It was way, way, way long, and I tried to hang it on the tent, but it was so long I couldn't. And then also the tape wouldn't stick, so I was like, but I think the 24 by 47 that we taped to the front of the table worked great. So I think we should look at one of those. And they had a lot of compost information. I don't necessarily hate that, but I feel like we should probably have something a little more akin to this that has like, come see, not this, but like something that says Recycling Committee Eastham, and then has like a circular economy, like a little more draw the people in. I would love to do some kind of merch. I was the next point. We need to find something to give away because everybody was coming to our table to take things that we weren't giving away. And they were going to every other table to take things they were giving away.
Well, the problem was we were sitting right next to the mass save table and they were giving away light bulbs.
Yeah, I know.
Bags.
We used to give away magnets, right, Gary?
Pardon?
Did we give away magnets at one?
Yeah,
point?
we did, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
they're still out there somewhere, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm willing to do whatever. I just don't want to do something that's like wasteful, but a bumper sticker or a magnet would be great. So let me.
I still like the
It's like they were just going down the
compost
line
bags
saying,
to
"What
give
you
away
got?"
the little
Oh, yeah.
compost bags.
Oh, that was the other thing they were asking about. Was
Yeah, the bags.
the pails.
Oh, pails,
that we
right.
Talked about.
Thank you for reminding me about that. Containers.
People,
Yeah, because I guess we told them we were gonna have containers, and then we never really did have
So we'll
containers.
service them the same way that the transfer station sells composting units and stuff occasionally. The transfer station sells compost boxes, so we do the same kind of thing.
I mean, maybe what we do is find a way to work with them on them.
Yeah.
What was some of the other things people said? Bumper stickers.
Yeah.
Not everyone wants a bumper sticker.
No, that's true. Then there's some people that just can't get enough of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think a small bumper sticker, like, what if we replicated a bumper sticker kind of like the beach stickers, but made it obviously different, that it wouldn't encourage them being like a beach sticker, but just sort of like, I participate in the recycling program sticker that looks kind of like you're doing something, and people are like, where'd you get that sticker? Because that's one thing that people go like, oh, you got beach sticker, like, oh, like, but if they see a recycling sticker, they'll be like, I want that one too, because people have that tunnel sticker, and it's not even a real, there's no tunnel. It took me a bit to realize this, but there's no tunnel. I was like, a tunnel sticker, there's no tunnels around here. And then they're like, yeah, you're not fooling me. But yeah, like that kind of ties into the sign at the transit station, all of this kind of stuff together. Again, the postcards, I have nothing on the back. What do we want to put on the back?
Yeah.
I just made something to have at a handout. And this was just sort of evolved. And then I was like, well, it's kind of nice. So then once my wife made it nice, actually, I'm going to give her 100. Yeah.
Just to let you
She's an artist. So
I have to be downstairs and
no worries. And then I did share the volunteer handbook, which I'll send out. I'm open to taking any suggestions on it. It's just a template. Posted signs at the thing. We talked about that. Any new business other than I have a member who wants to join. I'm going to pull his resume up right now.
I want to
Here he is. Sign.
new beautiful board that we've got. A discussion.
Okay, sure. Do you want to have one a separate one, or do you want to have one?
Well, if this were.
Yeah, we have this. I can make
for
this
the very
big.
First one.
Yeah, I have this in several sizes. Originally, it was designed to replace that, and then Alicia said, shrink it down as a postcard. So then I shrank it down. So the original one's actually bigger. This is at the top. I can send that out as well.
But I think the new one, it's good for something, but then also to post the newsletter and bulletins and stuff. It's more of a bulletin board than a big.
Okay.
Right, it's a closed box. You have the closed box with glass doors, and it's for posting bulletins. It's where the old reduced, reuse, recycle, the big one.
Oh, so it's more of a cork board than a display board.
Over on the recycling, where they're recycling.
Yeah, by the glass recycling.
Okay.
Right, I mean,
It's
doors
beautiful.
and glass.
It's
So you're
I'll have
not
to
gonna
take a look
see a
at
big,
it.
so you're not gonna see a big sign because of the.
I got it. Yeah, before it was just a big sign with the thing with
Yeah,
glass.
so it's more for like a couple 8.5 by 11.
Well, then we just make a smaller one to like have that. We can even put the volunteer for the swap shop stuff
Go
in there.
look at it so you get.
Yeah, I definitely have to do that because I designed it originally around the old box, so obviously I'm out of date. But this is James Dahl. He's a volunteer. Wants to be a alternate.
Also only a part-time resident.
Correct. As an alternate, though, he wouldn't need to be at every meeting, nor would he have voting power. He'd just be an alternate.
When would he be here if he's a part-time resident?
I
We
don't
don't know.
know.
That's,
We have to find that out.
yeah.
I gotta talk to him. I just didn't want to go do all that without talking to the committee first.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I'm here, more or less. Like he has some things on his resume that kind of lead to that he might be a good addition. And they said he's a go-getter and they wanted him, but he wasn't a full-time, and they had like so many people applying at that spot that they had 4 people that were full-times.
Yeah.
So they sent me his information, and I thought, well, at the very least I could do is bring it up here and we can discuss it and unless anyone has another alternate, we can put him in contention. I'm not saying it has to be this guy or anyone else. Just the climate action committee.
You know, he got bumped to us.
I don't believe so. I'll be fair, I got bumped to you guys. Yeah. So I'm happy with it.
Okay.
Well, I
But
guess that would be the #1 question. When are you here? Because we meet every month.
Yep.
Okay, I'll see if I can get an information, reach out to him and see, like, he may just be able to call in to the Zoom, which would be sufficient in my opinion for an alternate. So yeah, that's kind of, so you want to go back to the box? That's kind of everything else I wanted to cover.
Please.
And then we can be done. That's all I had to cover. Someone else's new business.
So it's horizontal. It's got 2 sections. So it could have one gigantic poster in there, or it could be 2 separate, or one half of it big and then all your cards decorated.
Do you have an idea of the measurements?
It's at home.
Okay, no worries, no worries. I'll go and check it out myself anyway.
That would help.
Yeah.
Have a look at it because it's stunning.
Okay.
It took 2 years.
Yeah, I'm surprised they just changed it out of the one like that because I literally measured
it.
it.
Didn't just happen like that.
No, I mean, but they didn't tell us they were changed. No one said anything.
Oh, they don't tell us anything.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm still waiting on numbers back from Kim St. Albans.
Okay, I'm gonna start becoming more proactive in this. I think if I'm a squeaky wheel, I'm gonna get greased. If I can be a squeaky wheel, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to reevaluate the box. I have no qualms with that. I think it could also be more of an opportunity to put things. So that's even better. I think that the transit station, one of the other things I want to do is you don't have a website on the town site. I'm not talking about a whole website, the East Ham Swap Shop. Just in the town, when you click on transit station, there should be a sub-page for Swap Shop. It's now mentioned on the Google. I got Google to mention it in the maps thing. So it's now mentioned in the maps. Thankfully, Tom was actually a guide. He did it. But yeah, like things like that. I just want to update. And again, it's just announcing we're here. It seems like a lot of people don't know it's there, or they don't want to pay $10, so the vouchers will help improve that.
They could pay $10 and come in and do anything.
Well, that's what they don't want to pay $10 just to look at the swap shop.
Right.
That's the problem. That's the main draw away from the swap shop. For me, that's the main draw to put it outside the transit station if you were going to do so. I don't really have a extreme preference one way or the other. I think being inside is better than being outside for sure. Because it gives us access to things. But if being outside gives us a fair shake as, for instance, a charity rather than a town-run thing, then so be it. But at the moment, the town does own the swap shop, so there's no need to change anything there either. Originally, I was told that nobody owned it. It was an unowned nebulous thing, but it turns out the town does own it.
Question,
Sure.
Do you have an enlargement already?
Correct, I do. 30 by 30 inches.
Where would that be?
It's on my computer. I didn't get it printed yet because I didn't want to get it printed without talking to everyone. I just drafted it up so that if they said yes, I could go to the Staples and get it printed within a day. I also needed to get a quote and stuff on it.
When I get home, I gotta go. When I get home later, I can send you the dimensions.
Please, yeah. And then I can get it resized or repurposed to whatever we want, and we can figure out what goes in there now. If it's more than one thing, great. It's even better. As a box, I just don't want it to be empty. So yeah, if we can put smaller versions of that in there with
Hi, everybody.
community information.
Bye, Lee.
Does it make sense to put recycling?
Getting picked up and then-
Yeah, this isn't branded because it was just a concept I was working on, and then it kind of became a thing. But yeah, this is just the central of our branding. It's going to start to say Eastham Recycling Committee all over it. I think it should, and then and maybe even
Even if we just put our little.
I may see if I can get them to buy like a shortened URL.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
This jacket was sitting on the chair.
you might as well put it on this one.
I can't take it.
You were appreciative of it for the reason.
Yeah. I mean, I'll redo it, and it'll say all the recycling committee stuff again. I think they might even, if there's a way to get like a shortened URL and have that be on there to drive people to like the transit station information as well. A QR code. Yeah, QR codes are good too. I have mixed feelings about them sometimes because people will like put them on Instagram and you like can't scan a phone with your phone. So like, or you can, but like it's lame. So like I feel like we'll use it, but we have to be clever about it. But like, probably a QR code that leads to the website might be the best way, rather than like a long URL that you have to type in, or like trying to get a shortened URL that's managed properly because something changes hands and that URL dies and then the whole thing doesn't work. I've been there myself. So yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to throw this out there for everyone to think about and come to email me with whatever. I've just been working on a lot of this kind of stuff just by myself in a vacuum, so it doesn't really help me make it better. So now it's just kind of enough to give to somebody to say like, well, with the other meeting, they were really picking it apart. So that's what I'm hoping people do here. I mean, the one guy was like, well, that's the English spelling of color. And I'm like, does that really need to matter at this point?
That's who he is.
I know, it's definitely
he'll
who he
do
is.
that every meeting.
I'm sure he does. He seems like the type, but I mean, that's the kind of things I think we should start doing though to make this stuff better. And then once we have a solid unified brand and we start to roll it out, and then once we have like hey, here's what we think the swap shop could be, then that's when we start going to Jackie and saying, look, we've prepared. We're ready now. It's time to start making real moves. And that way I can shake the tree a little bit and see what falls out. Because right now going to her and saying I have ideas is great, but they are also having ideas. And right now I want to have something solid to say, well, we did that. And now we're ready for you to do the next step. And then we can work together on it. And not in a confrontational way, but just to show like, if we care, maybe they will too.
And it would be nice if they were to share some of that with us.
Exactly.
Because right now it's kicking into me.
My main focus right now, from now that I've got these ideas cooking and came with some stuff to give to everybody to kind of kick around, is to try to get avenues of information so that we're not in the dark on all this stuff all the time, or we're not going like they don't tell us anything. Now it's like, well, I found out, or so and so told me. It's now we can get direct pieces of information from the people. And one thing I did actually forget to mention earlier, during Windmill weekend, I ran into somebody from the Center of Coastal Studies. Now, they were a geneticist, but they were going to be able to give me contact info for one of their erosion studies people. So I'm going to also get them into the loop a little bit and to try to justify our glass breaker and our thing. Because I think those two things are cheap pieces. I'm saying cheap in the like $30,000 to $40,000 in minimum start of like investment, but like cheaper pieces of equipment that we can get, because getting a whole smelting operation for cans is not obviously going to happen, or melting glass isn't going to happen, but crushing it to sand and piling it where the dirt pile used to be, or piling where the Christmas trees used to be. And then the city's like, well, we need sand. It's snowing. Free sand. You know what I mean? It doesn't cost them almost anything other than the initial buying of the machine and running it. And they're already running equipment down there. So they have to have power, and they have a lot of the things they need are there. There's two whole things of glass bottles. Imagine being none there. Two more things where there could be something else, because the glass bottles go in a chute that just goes and then eats it like Pac-Man, and it's gone. So these are the kind of things I want to try to justify, and I want to get more information in. But
in terms of the sand, though, that would be, you're saying for spreading for snowstorm. I mean, in terms of fill sand for the beaches, that has a lot of environmental rules.
Yeah, that's why I'm not suggesting it immediately. I don't know I know the sands on this particular, we're on a sandbar that is a sandbar made of calcium carbonate, not silicon dioxide. So the sand from bottles might not be as good for the ecology there. So I wouldn't want to just say willingly, let's dump it, unless we had somebody that said it's okay. Yeah. I'm not an environmental studier like that. So I wouldn't want to say one way or another.
You're proposing
yeah, I mean, I'm thinking more municipal concrete production, municipal things where they would be like, we got to go buy 40 pounds of sand, or we got to go buy 100 pounds of sand. They don't have to. They could just truck a bunch to wherever it needs to go and spread it. I don't know what you guys do in the winter here for spreading in terms of salt. I know in Pennsylvania, we spray pickle brine because we have pickle production everywhere. So like it could be one of those things you just have an overflow we're already using, and that's not going to work. But
is there a step in front of bottles to sand in terms of extra cleaning and stuff? Because
yes and no. There is so the machines typically don't go right to sand. They go to what's called glass cullets, which is just essentially a fancy word for broken glass.
right.
And then that is used usually as an environmental filler, because it's essentially rock.
Right.
It can be dumped in the ocean. It can be used for a lot of things. And then from there, then it can also be further processed in the same type of machine, but just set at a finer mesh to sand.
Okay.
So it may be the same machine can run it twice, and maybe a separate machine is needed to make both items. But again, it would be part of the initial investment.
In terms of things like the plastic or the metal ring around the neck that not everybody removes, or the the not lead anymore, but whatever's on the wine bottle.
Well, on the wine bottles, yeah, absolutely.
And stuff like that. Is that all has to be removed?
I don't know if it has to be removed or if it would be filtered out as part of the detritus of the glass. Because if you think about it, it's all going to be sand. You're going to be able to filter out most things. And then the things that'll be left behind, like parts of label, little bits of adhesive, probably wouldn't make a whole lot of difference. But again, I'm not 100% on this. It's just, I know they did it in Louisiana on a great scale that worked with beer bottles. And if beer bottles worked, I figured probably have enough beer bottles here to at least start the process to try to figure it out.
Beer bottles are.
Yeah, so are liquor bottles as well.
They're not gonna have like the foil.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, the foil's mainly going to be wine bottles. I would imagine the wine bottles probably also would have a similar result because the top is usually of shrink plastic. I mean, the nicer ones are lead, but most of them are just shrink plastic, so they just come right off with part of the labels and stuff like that. Again, I'm not saying 100% definitively. It's just that I think we could start to make the arguments for some of these things.
And you talk to Carrie about what other places do with it?
Do with what?
Carrie, with the glass.
They just take it off, Kate.
But she might have some resources too that she might have had people look into it and can share.
Yeah, I mean, she talked a great deal about the breaking bottles into sand from a business perspective. It's not viable because you have to start going farther and farther out to fulfill contracts. But as a municipal, it's just an output of
But if other
compression.
towns looked into it.
Oh, none of them have done anything like this.
So no one's looked into it at all. Okay.
No, like I said, businesses have tried to form doing this in this area, I guess.
You guys took a trip. Who's
I thought there was somebody down Cape that was, or up Cape. That was doing this.
Yeah.
Bottle breaking?
No,
Doing the glass.
Doing the glass.
Yeah, that's bottle breaking. Yeah.
The big presence that's come up recently is there were some articles in the Times about some students down in Louisiana that started doing it. And they turned it actually into a decent sized business.
Yeah.
Gary, didn't a couple years ago people take a trip to one of the transfer stations on Cape?
I also
Yes.
recently learned though that
It was not Yarmouth, but it was Brewster, actually.
Brewster, I was told that we have the best transfer station.
We also did one in Wellesley.
Yeah.
We also did one in Wellesley.
Which town was crushing glass?
Oh, that was Yarmouth.
Yarmouth.
Oh, Yarmouth. Okay, well then we can take a trip to find out more. That's on my list as well. I have to get all the addresses, all this. I want to get this, check out the swap shops and check out the transfer stations and just see what they're all doing as well. Just because if they're doing something, why not just steal that idea, stand on their shoulders, save us the trouble.
Funded it.
Yeah, exactly. Find out how they funded it or if it's even worth doing as well. Let them make the mistakes as well if we can. But I was told we have the best transit station. It's the most organized transit station. So whatever that means, it's going to the other ones is going to be probably somewhat useful, but apparently they're not as organized. People don't like them. I don't know what that really means. I've been to many dumps and they're all dumps. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I went to the one in Dennis with Gretchen, and that one was very impressive, but part of it was that there was a lot more space involved. In fact, people could drive from one little station to the next little station.
I see. Maybe that's why they like it, because it's all in one spot, maybe. I said maybe that's why they like it. It's all in one spot. I couldn't really get anything. They just said it. Well, the people that said it was the best just said it's the best organized, which doesn't tell me much.
We don't have to argue about it.
No, I'm not trying to argue. I'm trying to understand why it's the best, so that I can understand how is it better than the other ones? Yeah, that's what I want to know. What's the SWOT analysis? The strengths, the weaknesses, all the opportunities, the difficulties. I don't know any of that. It's just weird to me. But if they say we have the best, I'm not gonna argue with them either. But yeah, that's what I've got so far.
Oh, one question.
Sure, of course.
Do you have the copies of the old newsletters? The old newsletters, could you? Because it might be interesting to, like, with that board, to pull them out and update them.
We might have them. I mean, if not, I'm not opposed to remaking them. Like I said, I
It's like,
was.
but
Well,
if
no,
I'm gonna
they're-
do something, I
They're
like-
originally mine.
Oh, yeah,
I
they're
have them
perfect.
on Google.
Okay, because
They
it's
don't go away.
it's much nicer to start with something and update it if needed and.
Mhm.
Yeah, I want to also start using I want to start sending like the agendas and stuff from the actual email as well, just so that we're all getting it from one place. Because I'm sending it out from my personal email, but like, I want to future proof some of this stuff so that whoever takes over next kind of has like a
Yeah,
skeleton.
and like what I said for the NFUU, I use the Google Drive and put everything there, and so the next person that comes along, it's all in one, like there's folders for each thing in one thing, and I think that instead of it all being kind of lost on various computers, that might be
Yeah.
something you'd want to work on.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out a centralization. I don't know what account, like I know our emails through Microsoft. I think it's a Microsoft. They may have like something we can
Right.
use. If they do, I'll use it. If not,
Might have the drop we can do.
yeah, if they do, I'll use it. If not, that's fine. I have to talk to people. I didn't want to go there sick and try to talk to everybody because I was coughing up on everybody.
No, I'm just throwing out other brainstorms.
No, I agree. I thank you very much for bringing it up. I got nothing else.
I motion to adjourn.
If you would like to motion to adjourn, it is 6 o'clock.
Hey.
I second.
Stop.